Great, great. So let's shift into life after St. Augustine's College. You completed your O levels, your sixth form that you did. You moved back to the UK. I was reading an article that was on the Morgan Stanley site in terms of you highlighted the challenges of going into a new environment where your mates had better backgrounds, better facilities, and then it was one of the experiences that you had to lean on and dig deep into yourself. Talk us through sixth form and getting into University of Birmingham, and how that shaped you.
I think that leaving Augustines and going to the UK was probably one of the hardest. One of the hardest transitions, because first of all, we thought we were going to go back to Augustines for sixth form. So I remember even Bobo Wusu mentioning that when they went back to sixth form, our names were still on the board, expecting us to come to sixth form. But straight after, if you remember, my mom went back to the UK in 1983. Mm-hmm. She never went back. And to this day, she's really never gone back to Ghana. And so at that point, she brought my three sisters back to the UK. And then there was only two of us. So when we finished in 86, she basically, probably a week after we finished in 86, we came back to the UK. And when we came, obviously it was probably around, I don't know, June, July or so. And we started working. We lived in Essex in Romford, Rush Green. Okay. And probably about 2 or 3 weeks of joining, we started working. I mean, obviously it's easy because you have a British passport, so you can work at a time. And it's probably one of the hardest transitions because we're living in Essex in a very Cockney environment. And I started working in, actually my first job was at Avos as a cleaner. And I'm sure some of you probably all experienced this. And it was hard because you're cleaning the floor, and even to get to supervisor, the supervisor means that you now have the buffing machine to buff the floor. That's a supervisor. That's when you graduated. And that first job, I was earning £27.90 for the week. But the real challenge was not so much that. The real challenge is trying to just understand what people are saying to you. All right. And when you listen to the Cockney accent and someone says to you, "I want a cuppa," and you're thinking, "Do you want a cup?" You didn't realize that you're saying, "I want a cup of tea." And you're trying to integrate into the environment. That was pretty hard. And then from there, I went to work at St. Louis. And that was also quite hard. And I'll talk about my school in a minute. But that was hard because working at St. Louis, I remember the story of one of the supervisors who basically said to me that I should go and sweep the aisle. In Ghana, we never say aisle. We use the word veranda and corridors and things like that. Charlie, I went to walk around the whole floor. I came back and I said to him, "Russell, I can't find the aisle." And the guy looked at me. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And he just pointed to me and says, "That is where I want you to go and sweep." And I said, "Oh, you mean the veranda?" Right. So look, it was an adjustment going back from Ghana to the UK, and then we went to sixth form at a school called Campion School, which only had about 3 or 4 blacks in the whole school. But as I always say to my kids, when you have education, doesn't neutralize anything unless you're the smartest kid. Then everybody gravitates around you because everybody wants to copy from you. And if you're not, there must be something that becomes a DNA that allows people to gravitate towards you. And for me, it could be that you're the best musician, people will gravitate towards you. It could be that you're the best, artist, people will gravitate towards you. For me, it was sports. And because I was very good at sports, people gravitate towards you. So even though it was kind of a struggle and people want to laugh at you because you're trying to adjust, your accent is different. At the same time, people still want to gravitate towards you because you were good in sport as well. So you always have to find something that allows people to gravitate towards you, which is what I did.
All right, wonderful. At the sixth form, I mean, you studied civil engineering at the University of Birmingham, Why civil engineering? I know you did science in St. Augustine's and probably continued in your sixth form, but why civil? Why not medicine? Why not something else? What was it about engineering?
Can you have a guess? Why civil engineering?
Your dad, you said that's Akwaboah and partners, so.
Bottom line.
Actually, yeah.
You know, I had to, before this, before Birmingham University, there was one story. In fact, there's been three big events before I became, before I decided to do civil engineering. Before that, before I went to Birmingham, I worked at Tesco nights, frozen foods.
Yep.
With Paul and a few others. Actually, I think Uge was there. Who else was there? Sedo was there. Eli Bomita was. We were all in the same Tesco back in London. Eli Bomita was there, and there was a few other Augustinians and Motowners were also there as well. We all worked in the same Tesco, and I worked on. I worked nights at frozen food, so we start around I think 8 and we'll finish 8 in the morning. We go home, and our area manager was called Mr. Efie. It's called Mr. House. So we used to call him Mr. Efie. And we admired him so much that at some point, I wanted to be an area manager at Tesco. Okay. And so I went home. I remember going home to tell my dad that I don't think that it's worth going to university because Tesco has been trying to tell me that they can take me through the graduate training program and I can become a manager and I can become an area manager.
Yep.
Charlie, he looked at me. Said,
I'm sure he looked through you.
Huh? Yeah. What kind of planet are you on? I mean, this was nothing in his books in terms of actually working at Tesco, right? So that was the first major one. And then the second one was when I told him that I wanted to be a pilot. And then he said to me that there are not that many planes in Ghana. Because as far as he's concerned, I was never going to be anywhere other than be in Ghana. So even though we're in Birmingham University, or I was trying to get to Birmingham University, as far as he's concerned, we were always going to come back to Ghana at some point. Okay. So I said, I want to be a pilot. He said, there are no planes in Ghana. So there are only limited planes, so you cannot be that. So I said, I want to be a mechanical engineer, right? Because I loved cars and the rest. And he says, the only car that was built in Ghana is Boafo. So there are not that many cars built in Ghana. So that profession is not going to help you. And bottom line, he wanted me to be a civil engineer. He was a civil engineer himself. And at some point, he wanted me to come back to be part of the Akwaboah and Partners company.
Okay. All right. That's good. So, you finished, did you ever practice as a civil engineer? I know you switched to become a software engineer. What was that journey like, the experience of practicing as a civil engineer and then switching track to something different? What was that decision?
So at university, I did civil, I did everything else. And then when I was writing my research, I started writing research around artificial intelligence and how to diagnose road failures.
Okay.
So, in Ghana and parts of Africa, we don't have, at that point, we didn't have a lot of engineers who can diagnose a lot of the road failures. So what I was doing is basically extracting their knowledge, put it into a system, and then hopefully we can use that to diagnose some of the cause of failures on the roads itself. And I was working with the World Bank at the time. So that's how I got into the intersection between engineering and software itself. But I did work as an engineer. So I worked on projects even at the Newbury Bypass in the UK. I worked on that. I worked for Morgan McDonald, which is a civil engineering company.
Yep.
I went back to Ghana to do a bit of engineering itself. So I designed. I worked for British Rail at the time. So if you look at a lot of the railways in the UK, in the north part, even all the way to Shenfield and all those places, I used to walk 10 miles a day. Just do all the surveys. So we will walk the whole track, we do the survey, and then we'll come back to the office and then try and plot all the graphs and then actually do all the design of the railways, including the level crossings. And it was quite an experience because even to do that, the engineering is one part, but to work on the railways, you know, you have to go through a lot of safety things to even pass, to even get on the roadways. And I tell you a story, which always sticks. The Intercity 125, which is goes at 125 miles an hour. It takes 4 seconds from the time you hear it to the time it gets to you. It takes 4 seconds. So when you're working on the roadways, you always have to be aware that when you hear that train, it's 4 seconds getting to you. So we used to have lookout people who were positioned about half a mile away to be able to keep an eye on that. And then we would do the same for 10 miles across the roadways as well. So yes, I practiced as an engineer for some time before switching to banking.
Okay. So like banking, Royal Bank of Scotland, what were you doing there? I know you rose progressively. Why switch again from a technical base now to a finance base?
So first of all, to talk about that is we're talking about the motivations at the time. You know, at that I had a view that I needed to if I've done all this education, I needed to make money, and so my interest was not so much the what I did. My interest was trying to make money. Okay. That was my interest. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
And so I thought, what can I do? At the time when I was doing the engineering, I felt that by the time I get to become a chartered engineer, and I looked at all the chartered engineers, they all had gray hair, 20 years in the industry, and I thought, 20 years to become a chartered engineer, to be able to be recognized, and then that amount of money was not me. So I put that to one side.
Okay.
And so I thought that so I decided that what are the 3 jobs that I can really get into that can make me money? One was around technology. Mm-hmm. The other one I felt was accountancy. And then the other one I thought was the financial industry. And so I chose to go through a track of technology first because I had already started doing that. So that's why I started working for IBM. Right. Okay. But at that time, I said to myself, by the time I get to the age of 30, I should be earning the same as my age. And at the time I was like 20, 26, 27 when because I stayed in academia for some time. And then by the time I started working, I think I was earning 16,002 at the time with IBM. But I said to myself, I need to get to 30,000 by the time I get to my age.
30 for 30.
30 for 30. That was kind of the goal. So, but to achieve that goal doesn't necessarily mean that you're just fighting for the money, because you still have to plan your career, you still have to plan your life, you have to work out how do you grow your career through that as well. But this was my goal as a benchmark to help me progress, and that's what I did. And so I worked for IBM, and then I transitioned through that to different organizations to where I am right now.
Okay, great. So in the middle of this, the tagline for the Morgan Stanley thing is a man who jumps at opportunity. How did you fit in family? Because I know you have 3 boys who love football at the moment. How did the chosen lady come into the picture, and how did you blend all of that with the family life? As
I think she's on a call, so I would. So
we acknowledge Madame's presence.
So so let's talk about the first part. So, you know, like I say, you always, in your career, as you grow up, having a strong partner is also always important. With back in the university days, I remember very well looking for, you don't go necessarily looking for partners, but I got introduced to someone in that I had an interest in, let's say. And I remember, I think it was the World Cup, one of the World Cups. On the way to Birmingham, I decided to pass through Brighton. And as you know, Brighton is never on the way to Birmingham from London. So, but Charlie, when there's a will, you always do it. So I got there, and my wife Sylvia was visiting her friend, and that's how we met. And then the rest is history. I got to find out that she was actually, even though she was visiting with a friend, she was only 10 minutes from where we live in Romford. She was at the time, 10 minutes away from that. And so for me, it was very, very convenient. But at the same time, she was somebody that I thought we can get on well with. And today we've been married for 20 years, and 20 years was 14th of July, so that was good.
Congratulations.
So yes.
Surprisingly, the first question we have is from Sylvia, but I'll save that for question and answer time.
Yes, but I think coming back to the whole thing, look, balancing work, family, and the rest is never the easiest thing. Luckily, I think I've got to a stage in my career, having sacrificed quite a bit. Also, family sacrificed quite a bit for me as well. But I think I've got to a stage in my career where I do have some flexibility to be able to balance it. So if I had to take time out, or if I had to reorganize my whole diary to spend time with the family, I can do that. But it always wasn't the same, and wasn't always the same back in the days. I had to sacrifice, and they had to sacrifice as well for us all to get to where we've got to right now.
Okay, great. I appreciate that, and I'm sure Sylvia will be the first to acknowledge it. So Morgan Stanley, where the money is. I think when
I have not seen it yet.
So Morgan Stanley, how did you get in? Were you handpicked? Was it an opportunity that came your way? And then your move from the UK to the US. So now you've done UK, came to Ghana, moved back to the UK, and then another move. How have you managed the moves in your life as you've gone along, and how did you end up at Morgan Stanley?
So to talk about Morgan Stanley is worth just rewinding a little bit. As I said, I was kind of motivated by money, but I want to emphasize the money is a proxy to an achievement. It's not the end goal. In life, you have to pick what is your goal, and at the time I picked that goal. Right now, honestly, my goal is about retirement and making sure that the kids and the family get what they need out of life, right? So at the time, you have to pick the goal. So my goal was that, which meant that having stayed in academia for some time, I was always going to move around for some time. So I stayed in IBM, and in IBM, I started off in Portsmouth and Southampton and Winchester, and I felt like in order to achieve my next level of my goal, which is, remember at the time 30. For 30, I needed to move back to London. That's why I needed to move back to London, for two reasons. One is that it was paying London waiting, right? So which means it will pay me a little bit more than in those days, because you get London waiting. And then the second thing is that at some point I wanted to get into the financial industry.
Okay.
Why? Because there were a few people, Tutu Ejari, Michael Lafrere, and a few other people who were all in the financial industry. And every time we go out, they would take a black cab and I'll take a night bus home. And I said to myself, this cannot happen. I also want to take a black cab and not a night bus.
Yeah. So
I wanted to do that. So in the end, I moved from IBM and I went to KPMG.
Okay.
The story of going to KPMG is interesting because I met, one of my strengths is about relationships and making friends, right? And I met one of the principal consultants and I built a lot of relationships with. And basically, at the time at IBM, I was at a JP Morgan site, helping JP Morgan. And then in the end, what happened was that one of the principal consultants came to give me a tip that they were going to get rid of IBM from the engagement, and they were going to keep KPMG.
Okay.
And so if I wanted to go and negotiate with KPMG to stay on the engagement, I can do that. So I went to the KPMG engagement lead and I said, I do believe that they're going to keep you on and they're going to let go of IBM, but I'm prepared to come and work for KPMG because they want to keep me on this engagement, but they don't know how to do that.
Okay.
So this lady, Lisa Saper, fast-tracked me through all interviews in KPMG and got me a job at KPMG. And that's how I got to my 30,000.
Okay.
And so it's not about just sitting there and waiting. It's about looking for the opportunities and taking those decisions in your own hands, right? So that's what happened in terms of getting there. And then fast forward, I moved from KPMG. I went to Deutsche Bank, went to RBS. We were in Asia for just under 8 years. And then a very good friend is called Neil AJ. He works for a headhunter company called Leithwith. And we've been friends for a very long time. Sometimes I give him business. And one day he came to Asia, and just on his way to the airport, again, relationships. It was the evening, I was due to go home. I said to him, look, I'll meet you for drinks. So I met him for drinks just before his flight, because the flight from Singapore to the UK normally leaves around 10 o'clock and so forth. And then when you finish work at 5, you still got some time to kill. It only takes 20 to 30 minutes to the airport. So I met him for drinks, and he said to me, I've never found a job for you, never done anything for you. Leave that with me. I'm going to find something for you. Okay. Within 2 or 3 weeks of him going, he calls me and says, there's a job going on at Morgan Stanley. Would you be interested in? I think you're the perfect candidate for it. And this job was based in the US. And this is what happened. I just met Phil Davis, who actually, by the way, was, I think, 1 year behind me at Birmingham University. He also did civil engineering. Okay. So I came to interview with him. I flew to, at the time, I think when an interview happened, I was in the UK. They called me on a Monday to get to the New York on Tuesday. I arrived in New York on Tuesday. I did 17 interviews on Wednesday. I was offered a job on Thursday. That's what happened. Yeah. Okay. Back to back. Yeah.
Great. But so how's the Morgan Stanley experience been? I mean, you're now the CEO.
Yeah.
A few initiatives that you've done, and we'll talk about your giving back initiatives.
Yeah.
In terms of, you've led the Caribbean and African diversity platforms in Morgan Stanley. But how has that been in rising through the ranks in Morgan Stanley to now become the COO, the technology officer as well? Yeah. How has that been?
Tough but enjoyable. Look, I think there's a number of things that it's hard if you don't put in context. People don't realize. I grew up in the UK. I worked in Asia, and then I moved to a US firm, which I've never worked for mostly. And then, so I worked for a US firm, and then, can you still hear me? You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, yes.
Yeah. I worked for a US firm, and I moved to the United States with the whole family. So it's been tough. You're also working for probably one of the best companies in Wall Street, which is growing at a pace which I've never seen before. And you've joined a culture which is a fantastic organization, fantastic culture, but at the same time, as a lateral hire at a managing director level, coming to a senior position, is never easy, because you're starting from scratch. You're starting from scratch again at a time where people are building relationships at this stage. So very soon, you have to rely on your experience and your relationship experience. And luckily for me, the strength I have is the ability to learn quickly, hopefully, and ability to build relationships quite quickly. So for me, I've had to rely on those strengths to be able to assimilate quite quickly in the organization. But at the same time, you have to be a little bit strategic as well. So when my first job, I said to myself, having studied the organization, that I needed to change jobs in a minimum 18 months, as a maximum 18 months.
Okay.
Not because I wanted to change jobs or increase my responsibility, but the organization is very much on a consensus-driven organization. It's based on relationships and the rest. And so it was a deliberate decision that if I can change jobs or add responsibilities, it demonstrates that I have settled in the organization. The reason why I say that is that for this level, for any position to be given to you, you rest assured it's spoken to about 30 to 50 people, right? Because it's a very consensus-driven organization. So for me to establish that, I wanted to put that marker, the milestone on the table. So luckily, by the time I got to 15 months, I changed jobs. And at that point, I for them to say, you are going to change jobs, we're going to give you this additional responsibilities, was a mark of confidence that you have joined an organization and you've settled. And that's what I did. And then more recently, I've now become the COO for technology and operations and firm resilience. But every day, as I call it, every day you're renewing yourself. Every day. Not every week. Every day you come in. I always say the difference between Morgan Stanley and other organizations is every day you have to bring your A game in. You cannot bring your B game. Every day is your A game. Other organizations, I could bring my B game. Every now and then I can get away with it. Here, every day is your A game.
Got it. So be strategic, show growth, renew yourself, and bring your A game. All right.
Yeah.
We'll take that. So now, one thing about you, I'm sure a lot of people don't realize is you said it in the beginning in terms of what your passion is, giving back, right? You are a very silent donor to Focus Hospital as well, giving back to Focus Hospital. And also you helped with bringing some of your colleagues from Morgan Stanley to experience the Elmina Castle slave trade experience and what happened during slavery. Why is it that you feel it's important to give back? What is it about giving back that drives you, that you feel it's important? What is it that everybody should learn as a muscle memory or something that we should all do?
It's a very good question. It's something I always think about. Look, I think there are things which have defined me that I had not thought about until I get asked this question, and I have to soul search, and then I have to look back and say, okay, why is it I'm quite passionate around that? So that is that part, and then there's another part which is probably more around the fact that there's a sense of responsibility. But the part that when I soul search, and I look at some examples of what has defined my life, it comes back to my parents and probably the environment. As I said, my parents are strong Christians and Catholic for that matter. And I remember back in my mom was a midwife, and my mom set up a clinic in Onwe, which is like 4 miles from Idrisu.
Okay.
So it's right in the village. It was called St Teresa's Clinic, which is named after my one of my sisters. And my brother and I, at the age of probably 8, 9, 10, we used to help her deliver babies. And so after school, the driver would take us to the village. We would wait for my mom. She would deliver all the babies in the village, and then we will get back home. But one of the pools, the Rollenstein pool, and on the way back, if you remember back in the days, we were not allowed to do hoarding those days, right? And so she was bringing Lactogen, Cerelac, and a few others because she also had patients back in Kumasi itself. So she was put in the back of her car, and then one of these is a Marina, whatever, a Marina car. And anyway, on the way back, we got to the barrier,
yep,
which was, I think, was Kimpton Chrono side. There was a barrier just before you enter tech, right? And we got there, and we got stopped by the police. And they basically pointed at the car to say, this is the stop. And then they stopped us, searched the car, saw all the hoardings in the boot, right? So they then arrested my mom for hoarding. So they arrested my mom. They kept the two of us by the roadside, and we had no idea where she had gone to. And Paul and I were on the roadside for the best part of 3 or 4 hours. And my dad gives back a lot. Both of them give back a lot. And if you look at most of the Catholic churches and you look at him being an engineer, some of the churches, things that have been built in Kumasi and Accra, they've all been built through him, designed and built without charging the church anything. So what is interesting that Father Nephew, I think, was coming through that day, and he saw the two of us sitting there, and this is how we got released. He then went to negotiate with them, and then we got released from these guys who were just sitting there, and he rescued us and helped release my mom. And then when we go home, my dad is also being arrested back in the days. The point I raise is that, there are moments like this when you look back, you realize that actually your parents were giving back naturally, but you never thought about it that way. And things like that become things that is registered in you. And so that's one part. The other part is that as you grow up in life, you realize that there is a sense of responsibility in life as a leader, whatever it is. And that sense of responsibility, I'm sure we all do it. Whatever we can do to give back, whether it's through helping all of us on this platform and friends to be able to survive, whether it's about helping our kids or whether it's about helping someone somewhere else, whatever it is to give back is an important part. And the motto I have is that if I see a friend succeed, it's an achievement. I don't feel like a friend needs to succeed for me to be jealous. I think a friend needs to succeed to find that, it takes a village for us to grow. And so if one person, I see one next person succeeding, I feel like it's a sense of achievement. The one thing I hate in life is when people are succeeding and we're trying to bring them down. Yeah. It makes absolutely no sense. And so the point around giving back is all around how I think in life. And I feel like a legacy that we should all leave is about how we whatever it means to you, pick one thing, two things, and just do it and give back as much as you can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Peter. I could go on all day, but I need to give opportunity to those who have joined us, APSUnians, not APSUnians, Hobsons, Motowners, gay girls and gay ladies and everybody. I think I'll start with the first question. And this one, I don't know if at dinner you would have to answer questions for this, but it's from Sylvia. And she's posted, so does this experience mean you're going to give your kids the free rein when it comes to their careers? And she's put a smiley at the end.
Yes and no. I think that in life you have to provide the platform and the tools for anyone to make decisions. And I think that we have an opportunity to be able to shape that. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. There are certain things that when you see a kid is doing and it doesn't make sense, I think you have to put your foot down. But there are boundaries where when you create, it is okay for a kid to make mistakes. And you may think it's a mistake, it may be an opportunity, it may not be a mistake. And so the trick of parenting is working out what is the kind of the boundaries. And the boundary can be big enough to be able to flex within that. And what is outside the boundaries where she's saying, no, it makes absolutely no sense, right? And you put your foot down. I think that's the trick that you balance. And actually, examples like this is in the pandemic right now, nobody has any experience around that, right? And so, if you think about the pandemic, certain kids may want to get up and say, I want to go to a party, right? And do you say yes? Do you say no? And when do you put your foot down versus when you don't put your foot down? So it really is about, are you providing enough tools for them to operate within some sort of a boundary? And are there some boundaries that you think, actually, you know what? No, and I make some tough decisions and so forth. And that's the balance that parenting we're doing. So when I say yes and no, I'm hoping that the boundary is big enough for the kids to be able to make decisions. And by the way, it's a marathon, not a sprint. The average career, people retire at 60. These kids are 16, 15. If they make a mistake or if they take some risk, and I won't call it mistakes, if they take risk in life for the next 8 years, it works out great. If it doesn't, they still got a few years ahead of them, and they will course correct.
Yeah. Okay. I have a quick one just in terms of, as we've gone through this COVID era, and you also being the technology officer from Morgan Stanley, how do you see technology post-COVID in education, in our new lives, and as we go forward?
I think that it's funny. This question, I probably get it every week from interviews. On Friday, I had an interview. This question came up again, first of all, the pandemic is something that has neutralized all of us, because nobody has had any experience like this. And when I mean experience like this, to have the whole world sit at home for best part of 15 to 16 months, it is an experience that nobody's I had before. Yep. So what it's taught us is that the ability to be able to connect is important. And the ability to be able to connect is through technology. To the extent that today we're having this call on a technology platform, right? And so what is taught us is the ability to fast track technology in different ways. It's also taught us that some of the technologies that we were thinking about that would take years to come up is here today. For example, the Zoom technology, I am sure they never ever thought that it would roll out to 300 million, more than 300 people within 2 months. They built this technology, and at the time when they were using it, it was less than 30 million people, right? And within months, they've had to pivot towards over 300 million people using it, right? So the technology is going to fast track a number of things, and it's going to fast track education. And we're seeing that it's going to help with the medical field, and it's helping with all sorts of industry. The trick for us is be able to realize that we can leverage on that quickly, and we can move things forward. And I always say, if you have kids who are coming up, doesn't matter what they learn in life, let them start thinking about technology.
Okay, great. Wow. We have one from Joe. He says, how do you think your background and experiences have helped to exemplify you from other minorities in corporate America, especially with Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on with Black Americans?
So the benefit of what I have is you don't waste a crisis. I am Morgan Stanley. I chair the Black Employee Network. And I do believe that some of these things you have to tackle head on, and you have to use your voice. And that's all you can do. You have the voice, you have the power, you have an event which has happened, and you should not waste that crisis. And part of that is I'm humbled enough to learn about, particularly in the US, I'm humbled enough to learn about what is going on, humbled enough to respect the different cultures. But at the same time, the thing that I'm focusing my attention on is using my voice a lot, and using the voice to help our own people and not be apologetic about it. And often people are very apologetic around some of these things. I am definitely not apologetic about it. I think we have smart people in all our communities, and we have to be intentional about it. And I have not been apologetic about it, and we're using that. So for me, it is helping us to be able to do that. It's also helping us to be able to, for me and probably others who are on this platform, to be able to connect more, and hopefully we can continue to support each other.
All right, great. Mami K says, what is downtime for such a busy man? I'm going to combine two. And Kwame Bako says, any experiences in Augusta that has helped you so far? And guys on the platform, if you want to ask the question, please just raise your hands and unmute your phone and then ask any questions, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know whether I have what I call downtime. I have my life, and I live my life. But within my life, there are certain things which are important to me in that life. So my work is always important to me because that's what fuels life, but I'm not going to do it for forever. So it's more about at what point, where do you get to and say, right, you're going to retire, you're going to find doing something different. I think flexibility is important. So I will always make sure I work out. And probably being a sports person, one of the biggest benefit I had is that my workout and my exercise and my routine, I never, ever compromise on that. And some of you will know with the pandemic, I started over a year ago, just getting a few friends together every Saturday, and we do a workout. And I did one today, and I'll continue to do that. Family time and my kids growing up, making sure that they get the best out of that is also important to me. So if I have to, if some of you also know that I'm a soccer dad, or a soccer family. I have 3 boys, 16, 15, and 13. 2 of them are going to play for Red Bulls Academy. The other one's playing for high school and the rest, and they have super busy schedule. If I have to move my life around to do that, I have the benefit of doing that. So 3 weeks ago, I was in North Carolina. I was still working from there, but I was still going to soccer pitch, and I'll do that. I was in Colorado. We were due to go to Missouri. Whatever it is, I will spend time because it's important. And I think the other part, which I totally enjoy, is music. So probably the other downtime, and I won't even call it downtime, but I make sure I spend time with that, which is a coffee show's show on a Sunday. I spend time on that. Look at him jumping up and down. On a Sunday, look, I try to support him as much as I can, but it's also a downtime for me to listen to music and to prepare for the rest of the week, right? So I use it to support him, but at the same time, I also gain something from it. I'm just listening to music, and then for the 3 hours, I'm preparing myself for the rest of the week as well. So it helps me. So I don't necessarily have a downtime. I just think about what is priority in my life, and I make sure it gets done.
Okay. Like I said, Kwame Baku wanted to know any other experiences in Augusta that has helped you so far. Kenny Ba, if you want Senior Peter's LinkedIn, just type in Peter Akwaboah on LinkedIn and you will find him. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Experiences in Augustines, I'll break into 3 parts. The culture of the school, the teachers, and then the friends, right? I think that one can never underestimate the culture of the school, the discipline of the school, right? Which is a routine. But that routine, after 5 years, it helps you, whether you like it or not. After 5 years, it helps you. You know how to go through a routine, and you know how to be on time, whatever it is. The rise up bell, do your housework, do whatever it is. That discipline helps you. So that's the first part. The second part, which is the one thing we never give credit to, is the teachers, right? I can tell you, give you one example. APSU, our headmaster, Jesse Apia. Mm-hmm. My comprehension was one of the worst, okay? When I started, and every day, and I learned from Tope, right? Emmanuel Tope. I learned from him because he would always go to APSU's place every evening, every afternoon between the hours of 2 or 4. You get there, he gives you this thing, you write it, and then he will mark it for you, right? And by the time I left, my comprehension was so good, right? And this is I don't know why he did it, because it's just an extra curriculum activity for him, but he was there to support and give back to us, and as an important part. Then the friendship part. I break my friends into 3 parts. First one is the people who help me in education, the people I copy from, right? And those guys I have to give credit to, because they were so smart and they were generous with their time. Yeah. And I bugged them so much that they helped me. I knew who was helping me in art maths, which was Laji Peterson. I knew who was helping me in economics, which was Bobo Wusu, right? And so forth. So I knew all of those, Topin and biology and all that kind of stuff. So I knew those guys. The second part is just a friendship that helps you live life. And you have to live life. Yeah. Be streetwise. Understand how to be streetwise, understand how to survive. And there were a lot of friends within that space that helped me. And by the way, they were all also smart in their own way. But the one thing they were smart on being streetwise, right? And that streetwise, I learned a lot from them in any way, right? And then the third part is the people who helped me through sports as well, which you can learn from. So whichever way you look at it, you can learn from them. And that school shaped me through the people who were there, the teachers, and then the culture itself, which, by the way, the culture has been built over years. Yeah. And we all came to enjoy it.
Great. So Joe, just come back and saying, so beyond using your voice, what are some of the other ways or tools you have employed to stand out from the rest of the pack that you think has yielded results?
I believe in.
I've just been pinged. Your twin is on the call, so Paul is on the call. So
Paul is on. Okay.
Acknowledging Senior Paul Akwaboah.
Yeah. Using your voice is one thing, but it has to lead to action. Okay. So, the biggest action is representation, hiring people. So I hire people through Morgan Stanley, and every organization I've been to, I make sure I hire people and I give them the platform. And there are people that I've hired who had no experience in investment banking. I'll show them for 1 year and help them through that. And at some point they will become some of the best, because I knew they can achieve that. So that's one part. Using my voice in Ghana. I use my voice quite a bit in Ghana to support Ghana itself, because I'm still passionate that the economy can grow, the economy can do well, and so forth. And that part, I'm probably more generous in my time than anything in terms of helping Ghana government and the Ghana economy as a whole. And and then using my voice to support the community as a whole and actually making some tangible actions. Because I don't believe in just voice. I just believe in making sure that it can convert to something which is more meaningful. I think the last part, which you and I are discussing, is that I would like to do more in Augustines. So, you and I are discussing what we need to do for next year and the rest, and hopefully we can use our, not just the voice, but we can show some tangible action.
Okay, so a comment from my senior billet, Martinez on Benjamin, says, Peter, trailblazer, your authenticity comes through very strongly. Your ability to strike a balance between managing the home, staying competitive, current and ahead is remarkable. Thanks for sharing. Mami K says this, complete the statement. With Sylvia, I've been able to ...
With Sylvia, I am complete.
Okay, so Mami K, you've heard it from the horse's own mouth. So guys, any questions, please?
Someone says, is my wife Hobson? Yes. So Sylvia, today you went to Holy Child. No, Sylvia went to Wesley Girls. She's a gay girl. And she's a very proud gay girl. But honestly, she is, I would say that I am probably the rough and ready. She is the complete one who is very organized, disciplined. She's a rock. And, she does everything. She handles everything. And I thank her for being the rock in my life.
We appreciate her and make her an honorary Absunian wife. Any questions, guys? The line is open. So what can Absunians do to bridge the gap between senior Absunians and younger Absunians?
Very good question. I do think that the platforms like this are important to be able to bridge that. I also do think that we have a sense of responsibility, especially because the junior Absunians, there's two parts to it. The ones who are already in school today, right, which we have to go and help. Right. And I do think we have a sense of responsibility to go and help them. And I think we should learn our voice and use our voice more. And I'm hoping that we can organize events like this where they can join and we can support that as well. I think the biggest thing we can support is also giving back, whether through financial to get a school continue to go, because the more we can get people through that education system, the better. And for us, we're lucky enough to go through the education system. We have to continue to give back in that space. And I know you guys are working on that. I think the one thing I'm very proud of is the fact that you, Augustine, and the rest are taking the mantra forward, especially even if you look at the APSU event itself. And I'm very proud of that. And I've seen recently that both the seniors and the next level have got together a lot more. And the fact that you guys are taking the mantra forward is important, because traditionally we would have said the seniors have to take it forward, right? But now we're getting to a situation where there's a mutual respect that actually you guys can take it forward. We can all work together and we can do that. And Augustine and everybody will know that behind the scenes, Mike Finn, myself, and a few others, we'll all be working together to support each other to be able to move that forward. For me, that's the spirit of what we should be doing more of that going forward. And I'm hoping that once this pandemic is over, we'll get together to really celebrate that as well.
That is great. So just keeping track of time, we can take a few more questions. Does anybody, my voice has been heard a lot. Does anybody else want to ask any questions? We've got a few people on the line.
Before you answer the question, can I ask you a question around?
Sure.
How has St. Augustine shaped you as an individual?
So for me, like you said, it's also about the relationships. I have a very close-knit core of friends, both seniors and juniors. My mates, those relationships, I spent 3 years in St. Augustines College, so 95 through to 97. So I'm part of the new system. So unlike the old system where you guys had 5 years, you guys had 7 years steeped in, we had a condensed 3 years. But the condensed 3 years was still good because I had seniors like Augustine Abochi, Martinez on Benjamin, Raga, Bina. So I met lower six, upper six in school. I had my seniors who were in SS2, SS3 in school. But the intensity of coming in, the camaraderie, and just knowing that people have your back, being challenged, the punishment, being able to stand up for yourself, even just plotting the way you walk to dining hall, avoiding Theresa's house so that Kalo doesn't call you, or you don't go through Kelly house so that Okoro doesn't call you. But also, like you said, having a system in place, a routine has helped. And then becoming a senior and wanting to help and give back and be an inspiration. That's how Augustines has shaped me. Teachers as well. But I think for me, it's the relationships and the experience. That's been key for me. I have my core friends have been Augustines when I went to tech as well. My roommates were from St. Augustines. I still keep in touch with a lot of them. And going to Aponchike, I haven't missed, unless I'm in the US, I haven't missed speech day. If I'm in Ghana, I attend speech day. And my year group is organizing the speech day come next year. So everybody is invited. It will be a good one. I'm in discussions with Senior Peter on how to support that from the back end. So we'll probably see something around that. But that's how it is. Why I chose Augusto, well, I'm also very heavily Catholic. My uncle also went to St. Augustines College, so that's a big influence. But we had a trip. I went to Outside Academy. We had a trip to the Cape Coast schools. And when we drove past Augustines, I saw the beach, I saw the school, I saw the energy. We're supposed to go to Augustines, but we couldn't, but we just drove through. That was in 94, 93, 94. But the energy that I felt from the students, we only had about 10 to 15 minutes of talking with them. I knew I wanted to be there. So that's how.
That's good.
It's really
shocking. I tell you one story. I know that Holy Child and the Wesley Girls, they are on and they are listening. You know, back in the days.